Alright, Crown Zenith is just a few days away, and it's time that I make the most clickbaity of comments. What are the best cards to pull from Pokemon's last Sword and Shield era set? But before we get into it, let's roll that intro. Hey Gengar Gang, what is going on? My name is Ryan, this is the Analytic Gengar, and welcome to another video. In today's video, friends, we're doing some Crown Zenith, looking into basically trying to get a good look at some of the cards. This is actually breaking news as of the date that this video releases. Today is January 17th, 2023, and PokeGuardian just confirmed and kind of uploaded this, as you can see, on their website. So I'm super excited to take a look at some of the cards finally in full English, so that we can see what exactly they will look like in English. Obviously, the Japanese and English cards do have a little bit of a different variety to them, so it'll be nice to kind of see everything in the TCG language that you consume most of your media in. Of course, if you like today's content and you want to support my channel and this video, definitely feel free to leave a like on the video. And hey, if you're not already, consider subscribing to become part of the Gengar Gang. As usual, links to today's video will be down below. And hey, without further ado, let's jump right on in. So, they basically don't play any games when it comes to just kind of, yeah, here, take it, go, consume. So, you know, no commentary, no nothing, really just kind of giving you a good look at what the Pokemon cards are going to look like. Now, I believe if we click beautiful, we get a nice clean look at everything, and yeah, we'll just plow through and kind of click through some of the stuff. Now, at a high level, it should be noted, Crown Zenith, much like any of the other special sets, has a bunch of stuff going on. There are promo cards that will be released. You can get these different promo cards as part of different boxes or items that you get. So that's the first thing to note, is that these are completely separate from the main set. After that, you have the regular set. So this is just going to be your typical standard set of Pokemon cards. And then something that is more and more common now in the Sword and Shield era, but you now have the sort of back end set as well. So this back end set is known as the Galarian Gallery, not to be confused with trainer galleries, which have been in existence since Brilliant Stars, and they're basically tail end sets that kind of exist somewhere out there. You usually pull them from the reverse slot, and they're all very fun and fancy with some of the best artworks of the generation obviously being featured in these particular sets or special sets. Now, obviously, one thing to note is that this set is kind of going to go all out. So as you can see, we have a huge Galarian gallery. Normally, a trainer gallery would be about 30 cards, and frankly, I always thought that number was surprisingly low compared to the relative size of many of the Pokemon trading card English sets that we've received over the past couple of years. However, what is surprising is that, you know, yeah, they're kind of going all in. So you can see multiple alternate arts, multiple gold cards, and multiple trainer gallery-esque cards for you to collect. So without further ado, let's, you know, kind of jump on in and see what we see here. Now, from a promo perspective, you've of course got the 3 starters for the generation, so obviously it definitely makes sense that you would want these Pokemon in your promo set, given that they are the starter Pokemon's final evolutions. The Regieleki and Regidrago are from these really nice $20 boxes. These are some of the best items to purchase, mainly because you get Pokemon cards at a pretty decent price. So Crown Zenith, you know, does have some boxes or collections that are a little bit more gimmicky. They are a little bit more expensive per pack if you were ignoring all the goodies and extras that you get. So the Regidrago and the Regieleki box, they are releasing this coming Friday, January 20th, which is the official release date, for Crown Zenith, and obviously they're going to be really good value for the money because you're not getting a ton of quote-unquote wasted product. You're just getting packs of cards and a promo card. That's it. You also have this Pikachu and this Pikachu V Max, not surprisingly, from the aptly named Pikachu box. And then the Lucario V-Star is going to be your Super Saiyan Lucario looker for the ETB. So you're going to get this card similarly to the way that we got the stained glass bird card or the Charizard card or any of the other multitude of cards that existed somewhere out there in the universe that came with an ETB as part of a special release. After that, we jump on into the main set. So the main set is obviously going to be organized like any other trading card game set. You can see down here there are 151 cards in the set in your classic Sword and Shield era style. We start with the grass type Pokemon and then make our way down to the the fire type, and then the grass type. Now, instead of clicking through each of these, I really just kind of wanted to stop and point out a few really good ones. The Leafeon and Leafeon V-Star I thought were pretty cool. Of course, a classic for any set like this one is going to be the inclusion of some Charizards. So you have a regular V, a V-Star, and a Radiant Charizard. We do have a Kyogre, which I'm actually surprised kind of made it into the cut, as well as a regular rare Kyogre, which was also kind of fascinating to me. Of course, it wouldn't be the Sword and Shield era without a random evolution showing you its ass, so there is that. Moving on, we have probably the main Pokemon for the set, Zacian and Zamazenta. So you do get V and V stars of each, as well as some super sick cards. I really think these rares are something to behold, and it's a shame we're not getting some full arts or something like that, where they're kind of making use of this alternate art vibe that was a little bit more predominant in the early part of the alternate art spike of cards in the Sword and Shield era. You do get a Ray, so hey, might as well be Evolving Skies 2.0. So you'll get all the way through a VMAX. And then, yeah, really, realistically, this set is kind of nothing spicy. The one thing that I have seen that I think is pretty cool is you are also getting these autographed trainer cards. So, quick thing to note, these actually aren't autographs, so there isn't any actual writing on the card. This is all printed, and effectively what they're kind of showing you is, hey, this is a trainer, this is what their autograph looks like. So it's kind of supposed to be a nice little touch that you can kind of see, and obviously it kind of is just meant to highlight some of the more popular trainers that we have seen throughout the time. So obviously Leon, Hop, Nessa, and many of them have an almost alternate art vibe to them. Obviously many times when we see Nessa, she's in her more gym leader clothing, so this is kind of a different look at her. You know, she just looks like she's hanging out getting some lunch at a cafe. So I think they were going for that. Same thing with Rayhan. You know, you've got him just hanging out with his Flygon there. So I think that was kind of the vibe they were going for here, just kind of nice chill, but also really cool because you get those very nice autographs, which are honestly something that set these cards apart. Onto the trainer full arts. This card is probably going to be a big hit for very obvious reasons. When this card was in Fusion Strike, it was also a big hit for very obvious reasons. So Elisa Sparkle, probably going to be a waifu card, so waifu collectors rejoice, you'll have plenty to collect. Friends in Hisui and Friends in Sinnoh, which I thought was pretty cool. Hisui being the earlier or primeval form of Sinnoh, so go figure on how that works. You have Professor's Research with Rowan, you have Volo, and then we get into, fun fact, the rare energy cards. So these are going to be reverse rare cards that you can pull from the set. These are super cool. Basically like many of the other sets that have come before it, like Champion's Path, like Hidden Fates, we'll get full reverse holo versions of everything here. And then this set, believe it or not, has a true secret art or secret rare or whatever you want to call it, and it's basically a Pikachu full art card with a ton of the fan favorite Pokemon from the generation for one reason or another. So obviously a super cool card. It's very reminiscent of the actual first promo card for the Sword and Shield era, if I recall correctly. That card had Pikachu as well, and to be fair, Pikachu's always kind of been our connective tissue through the Ash era of Pokemon. By the way, big spoiler alert, Ash is apparently done from the Pokemon anime after this many years. So Pikachu has kind of been the connective thread, or Ash's Pikachu in particular. And so I don't think this is just a coincidence that they would start and end the era on sort of this kind of card. Obviously, this isn't a promo, so it's not to say that it's the first and the last promo from the Sword and Shield era, but obviously this card kind of harkens back to the first promo, and I think that was very much on purpose. So really kind of a nice way of ending things there. Then what ends up happening is we move into the Trainer Gallery, or the Galarian Gallery. So a couple things to note. The Galarian Gallery is 70 cards total, and if you notice right down here where my mouse is, that's where you can see it says GG, or Galarian Gallery, 01 out of 70. So a couple things to note. As it relates to the original set of cards, 159 in the full set and 1 secret rare, period, end of story, that's it. Moving on. Now we've got the 70 cards. These ones I actually do want to tab through individually. So we've got a Voltorb, a Kricketune, a Magmortar. So far so good. You know, these are some of the more chill cards. They're definitely leaning very heavily into some beautiful artwork here and really kind of making use of all of the real estate. Oftentimes, being that the Pokemon cards official art borders are kind of restrictive, it kind of limits what they're able to do. So it would appear as though, for the most part, the master plan here is usually going to be take a Pokemon, put it in the center, and then you can have some fun on the edges of the card now that you have some more space freed up. So that's why you can have an Electivire that has a guest star Magmortar. And being that those Pokemon were kind of released in the same generation as Stage 3 evolutions, makes a ton of sense, right? Same thing here. You'll notice, you know, you have your Toxtricities, but you also have some Pokemon making cameos in the background, and that's for a very fun and obvious reason. Same concept with the Mew, the Lunatone. You're beginning to see a theme here. This Deoxys is sick, and I think this is one of the strong points that the set actually has going for it. There are a ton of really great Deoxys cards. I don't know where or why they came up, but for some reason they did, and I'm actually very happy that they did, because Deoxys is personally one of my favorite Pokemon. We haven't really seen a set themed around Deoxys in a hot minute, and while Evolving Skies did have Rayquaza as a pretty prominent feature, I've often thought that Rayquaza and Deoxys kind of get paired together, not as a legendary trio, but just as another random combination of Pokemon that you can kind of think of. So really interesting that we just randomly got these Deoxys cards popping out of thin air. And as you can see, we're making our way through. Obviously, the Altaria is one of the really cool artworks because it's actually knitted. There are a ton of knitted Pokemon cards, by the way. Latias, Goodra, a Ditto. So this Ditto I think is also really funny. It harkens back to the Delta species Pokemon where they kind of did something similar. A Dunsparce, a Miltank, a Bibarel, a Riolu. Obviously, I'm not going to spend a crazy amount of time on any one of these, mainly because for the most part, you can just go to the link down below, take a look, and kind of really take them in if you'd like. These cards are really cool because they all actually connect together to form a sort of quote-unquote full art. So the last cards from that section, starting with the Riolu and going all the way down, those cards actually connect to form like a full art picture, which is actually really nice. So a nice other little touch, I hope, that shows up really well in a binder. And that concludes the 34 cards in what I'll call the regular portion of the Galarian Gallery. And then, finally but not least, we have the other 36 cards in the Galarian Gallery. And these are what I would call the awesome cards, or the alternate art cards, or the alternate art inspired cards. So we have this Leafeon V-Star. Obviously, many of these cards we've seen already before in one way, shape, or form. So we've gotten a Leafeon alternate art, we've gotten a Leafeon VMAX alternate art. Here's just a V-Star alternate art at this point. We've got the super dope Entei, a Simisear, a Suicune, a Lumineon, Glaceon, and a Raikou. So I'll stop there and basically say most of these cards we've seen in one way, shape, or form. I will say the cards that are new are going to be the dogs, or cats, or whatever you call them. So the Suicune, Raikou, and Entei are definitely kind of new additions to the whole alternate art Sword and Shield era, I think. Zeraora obviously got its own alternate art, so this is just another one. And you can see what they're doing is they're definitely maximizing the size and kind of throwing in a few cameo Pokemon there. And overall, you get like a really nice cohesive artwork. You're getting actually 2 Zeraora, which makes sense. This card is really interesting. This is the Mewtwo V-Star that basically shows the opposite perspective of the Charizard from the Charizard Ultra Premium Collection. So another interesting tale of two perspectives kind of situation happening there, which I thought was pretty cool. Here is the Deoxys VMAX that I was mentioning, one of the alternate arts that we strangely didn't get in any given set, even though it sounded like Fusion Strike could have been where we got something like this. Ironically enough, we're getting it here. You'll never hear me complain about it. However, it is really just interesting that they kind of saved some of these Pokemon that are kind of premiering as alternate arts in these sets, or in this set particularly. It's kind of weird that we haven't seen them in prior sets in a meaningful or overt capacity. As an example, I think back to something like the Rayquaza, obviously got 2 different alternate arts, as well as all of its regular cards in Evolving Skies. And then interestingly enough, it's missing an alternate art card here. So yeah, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but I did just want to point that out, hopefully get your minds thinking if you're still with me here. You got a Hatterene, of course, you have to have a Zacian, a Drapion, and this looks to be a Claymation Drapion, a Darkrai, this looks to be a watercolor, a Samurott, Samurott V, Hoopa, Zamazenta, Regigigas, Hisuian Zoroark. So as you can see, for the most part, they are very strongly leaning into some of the more picturesque or memorable Pokemon from this generation. And from this generation, ironically enough, it has to be driven by the Generation 8 Pokemon games of Sword and Shield, as well as the Generation 4 remakes. So Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, as well as Pokemon's Legends Arceus, which obviously is where Adamon and some of the other characters will also come into play. So you've got Charon's Care, Colorissa's Experiment, Cynthia's Ambition, Gardenia's Vigor. So again, common cards that we've kind of seen before, now reprinted with a new perspective and new art. Very cool stuff. Iridia, she's going to be a very popular waifu, I'm sure. Melanie, who I'm surprised hasn't always been as big a waifu as I thought she should be. Rahan, Roxanne, and then the 4 gold cards, which also combine together to create one really nice full art. The Palkia V-Star, the Dialga V-Star, the Giratina V-Star, and the Arceus V-Star. So those are the 4 gold cards from the section. So in total, again, 70 cards in the Galarian Gallery. You've got a ton of either combining artworks, shared artworks, or revisited artworks where we've already gotten the card in one look, now we're getting it in a different look. And of course, we do have some Pokemon also just kind of making a fun kind of premiere in the Sword and Shield era, and for the most part, it's mainly because I guess they just couldn't find a place to put them in before, but hey, you're getting them now, so you'll take what they give you, I suppose. It should be noted, here's where the gold cards are. Ironically enough, typically when we see gold cards, they are secret rare variety, so the number will always be greater in the numerator than in the denominator. Ironically enough, that is not the case here, so these cards are part of the Galarian Gallery full on and completely. And that basically concludes the entirety of the set. Now, interestingly enough, tons of PokeTubers have already kind of done this, and wouldn't you know it, tons of other people are also writing about it. So I did briefly want to feature one of these articles just to kind of show you what some of the people are talking about. You know, so some of the best cards to pull: the Mewtwo V-Star, because Mewtwo's popular, Charizard's in it, and it's a connecting card. Elisa Sparkle, because, you know, it's a very pretty card. It's going to look good. It's a competitive card for Mew VMAX decks. You've got the Radiant Eternatus. You've got the Iridia. You've got the Hisuian, Zoroark, Charizard. You get it. Obviously, many of the cards in the set are being sought after, mainly for the hype around them, which I personally think is probably the best argument to be made for the set. And get ready for this, because here's where the controversy is going to start. I'm not a big fan of this set. So hear me out. My whole argument this entire time was that the Sword and Shield era slowly kind of devolved into this painful experience of pull the alternate art or lose money. And obviously many commentators have said that, many people have lived it firsthand, and frankly, unless you pull a Umbreon VMAX, which just isn't happening from an Evolving Skies booster box, realistically speaking, you're gonna be stuck. You're not going to have the ability to break even or even come close to gaining the value back that you spent purchasing that booster box. And I think that is unfortunately kind of what happened for effectively every set that came after Evolving Skies. Some of the earlier sets like Chilling Reign and Battle Styles had alternate arts and people were genuinely interested in them, but it wasn't until Pokemon really kind of hit a more powerful stride with some of these alternate arts that we saw some crazy prices, $200 plus, for things like the Giratina from Lost Origins or the Lugia from Silver Tempest. And I think that unfortunately we got stuck with alternate arts being the new secret rare, and I've made multiple comments on that. There's a video that you can go check out should you want to get a good peek at some of my more extended thoughts on that. Now, it makes sense then that the set that concludes this era would be one that features alternate arts so predominantly. So I think, no duh, it makes sense that, you're going to have this set, it's going to be cool, it's going to look great, and then what you're going to get are these really cool, sort of reprinted cards that also happen to be not necessarily reprints, but just a different art, right? So let's call that an alternate art for what it's worth. The one secret rare you get here, if I look back at the set list for Hidden Fates, I distinctly recall a better selection on the back end of the Hidden Fates base set. And I think what was really good about that was that it helped establish an identity to the first part of the set, because again, for many of these special sets, you'll basically get it in two portions. Your first portion is going to be the regular set, and then you're always going to get some kind of tacked on bonus, right? If you're thinking about it, then these 160 cards that you see on screen right now are Crown Zenith, period, end of story. This is the Crown Zenith Galarian Gallery, not to be confused with the main set. And so my argument is always, hey, does the main set have some cards that you want to chase? Again, in the past, there have been examples where, yeah, you wanted to go after the main set because it wasn't just 5 full art trainers and a Pikachu that got you kind of invested in the main set. Don't forget, for every pack of trading cards that you're going to open, and trust me, a lot is going to get opened, the majority of cards, right, are going to be these cards right here. Only one card from every pack has the potential to be from the Galarian Gallery. So do bear that in mind. And that is a fundamentally important thing, because if you're telling me that the only reason I'm opening a pack of 10 trading cards plus an energy and or V-Star marker is because one of those 10 could potentially be from this set, well then I don't know why I'm opening up the rest, right? So something to bear in mind. Down here in the Galarian Gallery, I see where they were going with this stuff. I think they just should have squished the two together though, and not added another layer of mechanic to it. And you might say, well, Ryan, Hidden Fates was the same and everybody loved Hidden Fates. Well, yeah, that's true. But the other component to the Sword and Shield era that I personally have never truly recovered from are pull rates. We've seen some somewhat controversial stuff out here on the internet. And something like this, I really don't think it's going to be, that crazy. I don't think the pull rates are this bad. Personally, I think a lot more packs need to get opened up before we can get, a true sense of how hard or easy it is to pull any Pokemon card. But, if we're using this as any kind of estimate, right? And let's be real here, 300 packs, most people are going to hit 300 packs. That means this is what you can reasonably expect to pull. If you were to pick up any random sample of 300 packs, this could be indicative of what you pull. And that stinks because, you know, I distinctly remember nearly completing a Hidden Fates binder just off of tins. And that was mainly because Hidden Fates was that stacked with hits. However, you know, my biggest concern, and perhaps this is a little premature, but my biggest concern is that some of these cards, especially in the back half, are going to be very painful to pull. It's going to take 150 packs to get this Palkia V-Star. And that stinks because, you know, we could have put it in here and I could have had 1 in 10 chances. We could have implemented God packs. We could have done so much more so that anybody opening the set isn't just ignoring the first 9 cards, doing the card trick, and hoping this back card has texture on it. Because let's be real here, again, for the most part, starting here and going down, it's those 36 cards that people are realistically going to be interested in. Beautiful cards, by the way. Don't get me wrong, I think it's going to be a great set. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to open up. It's just that it might be equally as punishing as other sets in the Sword and Shield era. And personally, I think the set could have done a lot more for us in terms of just giving us something to actually celebrate. This is another set with just a overly bloated trainer gallery at the end of the day. And frankly, I think for our last set in the Sword and Shield era, maybe we deserved a little bit better. But let me know your thoughts down below, friends. And with that said, I'm going to stop talking before the comment section comes for me. But with all that said, friends, again, thank you for joining and checking out another video. I appreciate your viewership as always. And if you really like today's video, again, easiest thing you can do is hit like on the video to bump it up. And help it get somewhere in the YouTube algorithm. Otherwise, if you think I earned it and you enjoy my content, feel free to subscribe in order to become part of the Gengar Gang. Other than that, let me know your thoughts. What about Crown Zenith? You happy? You not happy? Are we moving on to Scarlet and Violet? What do you think of this? I think the identity of what this should have been got somewhere mired between the mechanism, that is the trainer gallery, and the difficulty of maintaining the allure of what a alternate art is. And I think because of that, it was really an interesting time for Pokemon to try something different. But I think history may just see this as another poor attempt at Hidden Fates in the long run. The only difference is the Pokemon aren't shiny anymore. Right, guys? Pokemon aren't shiny, yeah. Instead, the Pokemon are just drawn in watercolors and other fun mechanisms of the sort. Other than that, friends, thanks again for checking out another video. Stay tuned. Crown Zenith opening coming sometime this week, and we will talk soon. Peace.